Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Near Memo with Mike and Greg today. David is out, and coming off of that really interesting discussion with Morty last week about brand and search and how you build a brand in local. We are going to be talking about the FTC and fake reviews, Mike's telephone number switcheroo hack, and Search GPT and Apple's potential future search strategy, and maybe a little bit about the Google antitrust stuff in the mix there. So, Mike, a lot of people read your article or saw your article on social media about the kind of hack that you did as a kind of experiment to see how easy it was to swap out a GBP phone number, which fraudsters have been doing in different parts of the world. Why don't you tell us about what happened there?
So last year, if you recall, during the airline snafus and all the bad, the groundings of the airlines, during that period, scammers had hijacked airline service phone numbers on Google business listings, got written up very widely, and Google, of course, said, "Well, we always, as soon as we find this, we take it down. We don't tolerate this, and we have fixed it, whatever that means, right?" And so I was curious at the time exactly what technique they used. So I bought rented a virtual number, and then sort of got busy and do other things. And I finally got a bill. I noticed my bill from them, and I noticed this phone number on it. So I decided just this last 10 days ago to see what it would take to change a listing. I happened to have had a fake listing called Illusory Laptop, which I created in 2011 to demonstrate how easy it was to create a fake listing, and Google never took it down. So I decided to enlist 3 people to change the phone number on that fake listing from the number that was there to this virtual number. And what totally shocked me and what was so surprising to me was that it took literally less than 20 minutes of their action. First person suggested a change that got rejected.
And this was suggest and edit.
Suggested and edit through the public web. Yeah. And these people are nowhere local. One's in up near Philly, or and the first one was a level. Let's see. The first person suggested it was maybe a level 2 product expert, and they got rejected. And the second person was maybe not a product expert, a local guy, was maybe a level 5 local guy, and they got a pending. Or maybe it was the number 2 person. The person who was a local guy 2 got a pending. I was the second person. First person was a local guy number 5. They got rejected. And then the third person, who's a very high stature local guy 10, was done something like 200,000 edits with a 98% acceptance rate with Google, suggested an edit, and his was immediately accepted. The phone number immediately changed. Now, interestingly, this local guy lives in France, and obviously.
Where's the location of your Illusory Laptop business?
Hypothetical location. It was in Bradford, Pennsylvania, south of my house. And so his edit immediately changed it. So whether it was the third suggestion or the third suggestion plus the trusted editor who has done 200,000 edits at Google, we don't know what triggered it, but we do know that the second person got it pending and the third person got it approved instantly. Now, when it was approved, which surprised the daylights out of me, I thought it would take 5, 6, 10 edits, whatever. When it got approved, Google sent a manager the notice of the phone number change in the dashboard.
And when you say manager, was there an actual person there to receive it? Who's the manager?
My brother. I had forwarded that number to my brother's computer repair business in the same town. And I, though, was the owner of the listing, did not get a message from Google that it had been changed. So very poor communication about this change, which means that if it happened to a real business, likely would have just persisted and the business would not have noticed it. The number would have been, gone wherever for some period of time.
I mean, in fairness to Google here, which is a rare position for me to take these days, had this been a real business and this person, a real manager of the profile, presumably that person would have received the notification and could have responded to it. I mean, your brother is, this is a fake business and your brother is not managing it. So, I mean, there's, in a real world situation,
Well,
there
let's take the real
that might
world
be,
of Delta airline phone numbers where they have 10,000 phone numbers,
yeah,
and who knows who's managing any given
it's true.
set of those.
It's
I
true.
mean, I think it actually is a bigger problem than that, because in the real world, people don't. And in fact, just shortly after that, in India, a large number of hotel phone numbers were hijacked.
Yeah. Well,
Major hotels. So
the,
clearly it's a problem globally, and it continues to be a problem despite what Google said, which is really my objection. Not that users can edit a phone number. My objections are twofold. Google obviously trusts users to edit phone numbers, and that one assumes that trust comes from a history of and knowledge of the edits that person has made. But they trust them often more than a business, which maybe again is maybe that's the right way to do it. But Google allows users to change phone numbers. Now, two things about that. It's probably okay, but there should be more notification of the business. The bigger problem is the way Google responded to the PR. The Washington Post picked this article up, and Google, like they always say, oh, we don't tolerate this sort of abuse. We're going to fix it right away. They fixed it by by suspending the fake business is how they fixed it. And, this is exactly what they said the last time. And if you go back and you look at the history of these hacks from when I first identified the locksmith hacks in 2008, 2009, Google always says the exact same thing. In fact, 2 years ago, I was working with the CBC in Toronto on appliance repair spam in Toronto, widespread. Google said, we don't tolerate it. We fixed it. We've tightened things down. And now in the Google forums, I'm finding massive amounts of reports of appliance repair spam in Toronto. So the bigger problem I have is with a company like Google essentially glad-handing the press with the same statement. And then 6 months later, everything is exactly as it was. And there are no fundamental changes to how Google Local works. It's still, they prefer easy to edit user edits over security.
well, that's the Web 2.0 kind of bias, is we're going to crowdsource everything, and if we get enough eyes on something, then it's going to be corrected. Because I mean, it's a kind of a quaint, there's a kind of a quaint assumption behind the scenes, which is humans are basically good and they're going to do the right thing and they're going to be truthful and ethical, which is great. It's great.
And
But
that we can moderate this in an automated way, that we don't need a human to
well,
moderate, to check
clearly
this.
though, they have fallen down on that side of things. I mean, you know, I think the stakes are so high for everybody now with Google visibility, and scammers too are sort of seizing these opportunities, that the old method no longer works, because there are predatory elements seeking these vulnerabilities to take advantage, and they consistently do it.
The other response Google has to these things is that it happens in a very small percentage of cases.
Small
And
for
by
them.
Well, exactly. That's exactly right, right? There's only 5,000 airlines in the world. If the 100 biggest airlines were hacked last year, and there's 230 million businesses in the world, on a percentage basis, it is very, very small.
Right. So
But
it's a
the harm,
technically true statement.
technically true statement. That's absolutely true. And
But
they do this, and they've had the same PR playbook since time immemorial. I mean, it goes back just beyond,
well,
it came out just beyond the Ten Commandments somewhere. I don't know exactly in the
yeah,
history
yeah,
of things, but
yeah.
somewhere.
But right, BCE.
Right.
Well, that's so. Anything you want to sort of say in a conclusory fashion about that? I mean, this is kind of a theme that we come back to again and again and again, which is Google's not really sort of holding it up its end of the bargain to deliver accurate information, or to make the world safe for its users. It's allowing. It's like the Death Star, right? The in Star Wars. So the Death Star is this enormous machine that is invulnerable except for this tiny little vent or whatever that they target the bomb into, and that's kind of analogous to what's going on here. If you're flying below the radar, you can do a lot of havoc before Google will notice and do anything.
I would say that I've been at this for a number of years, hoping that Google would accept responsibility, but it finally dawned on me that maybe it was Marx that said this. You should blame the capitalists the least. Google is doing what they do because it maximizes profit, which is what is expected.
Well, that's the logic
in
of
a
the
market
market.
economy. It is
That's the logic of the market. I mean,
and so
yeah.
my point here is that if we expect Google to self-moderate and self-regulate,
It
we will
won't.
continue. It won't, right? And the only choice here, in the end, is for people to realize that some amount of government regulation is necessary to keep companies, not just Google,
And not
but
just
Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, all
and
these
not
guys on the
right,
rails.
right, and not just regulation, but regulation with teeth.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.